Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins' latest loss to the New England Patriots has left fans and analysts alike scratching their heads over what seems to be an increasingly concerning pattern: late-game confusion and missed opportunities that are costing the team crucial victories. On Sunday afternoon, the Dolphins fell 33-27 in a contest that, on paper, they were very much in striking distance of winning, but ultimately, errors and miscommunications in critical moments sealed their fate. Miami trailed 12-0 early, a start that highlighted vulnerabilities on both sides of the ball, but as the game progressed, the Dolphins began to find their rhythm. The offense moved the ball more effectively, and there were moments that suggested Miami could overcome the early deficit. Yet, in the final stretches, as the fourth quarter ticked down, everything seemed to unravel. It was in these final possessions that the late-game issues became most glaring. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, trying to engineer a comeback, was forced into a sequence of high-pressure plays, the first ending in an interception that shifted momentum squarely back to the Patriots, and the second concluding with a sack on a turnover on downs, crushing any lingering hope of a miraculous finish. The aftermath of the game saw Tagovailoa candidly addressing both his own role and the team's collective execution, painting a picture of a Dolphins operation that simply did not meet the standard expected at this stage of the season. Speaking to reporters, Tagovailoa didn't shy away from frustration, describing a lack of clarity in communication and timing as critical issues in those decisive moments. "We have until the 15-second mark until it cuts off with communication with Mike," he said, referencing head coach Mike McDaniel. "Frustrated with guys with communication inside the huddle. Do we have too many guys in? The whole operation was not up to standard, not up to par. The pre-snap communication, the timing, that is where the alert is. Trying to find the urgency back for our team." It was clear from his remarks that the quarterback viewed these problems as systemic rather than isolated, touching on the notion that while he was making split-second decisions, the framework around him wasn't providing the support necessary to succeed. Tagovailoa went further to break down his decisions in the game's waning moments, particularly the interception on the penultimate possession. "The interception was trying to make a play on fourth down. I wanted to give one of those guys a chance," he explained. His tone suggested a mix of accountability and the desire to trust his teammates in critical situations, even when the risk was significant. As for the sack that ended Miami's final drive, Tagovailoa framed it as a product of trying to maneuver within the pocket under duress, a moment that underscores the tightrope quarterbacks must walk in high-stakes scenarios. "It's an illustration of how the margins in professional football are razor-thin and how missteps, even small ones, can have outsized consequences in the narrative of a game." The frustrations didn't stop with the players. Head coach Mike McDaniel echoed many of Tagovailoa's sentiments, highlighting communication and execution as key areas where the team fell short. McDaniel's own words suggested a man aware of the optics as well as the operational deficiencies, and his acknowledgement of responsibility was front and center. "I'm very frustrated," he admitted. "There's coaches and players that did not execute communication with the game on the line. Our communication and substitution were not up to par. But ultimately, I hold responsibility for all things. I will make sure that things that should be ironed out will be, so that we won't fall victim to the same thing again." The transparency here is notable, as McDaniel clearly did not attempt to shift blame exclusively onto his roster, choosing instead to frame the issues as something he, as head coach, will actively work to rectify. McDaniel continued to critique broader aspects of Miami's performance, pointing out that tightening up their overall approach is essential if they hope to compete consistently in the AFC East. "We have to tighten up our football entirely. We can't wait until the second half to get a stop. We can't have a monumental special teams play negated by a monumental special teams play," he said. The emphasis on consistency, particularly in high-leverage situations, reflects a coaching philosophy that prioritizes situational awareness and execution under pressure. His words also painted a picture of a team that is frustrated with itself, a group aware of the mistakes being made and eager to correct them before the season slips further out of control. The environment in Miami has grown increasingly tense, as evidenced not only by the words of players and coaches, but by the reactions of the fan base. A banner flown over Hard Rock Stadium calling for the firings of McDaniel and general manager Chris Greer underscores the high expectations placed on the Dolphins and the low tolerance for repeated failures. It's a stark reminder that in professional sports, particularly in markets with passionate supporters like Miami, patience can be thin, and every loss is amplified through the lens of fan scrutiny. In such a climate, transparency and accountability from the leadership are not just commendable. They are essential for maintaining credibility and trust within the organization and the community it serves. Despite the frustrations and public scrutiny, there remains a chance for Miami to redefine the narrative of its season. With the Dolphins set to face AFC East rival Buffalo Bills on Thursday night, the team has the opportunity to secure its first win and begin to shake off the growing unease surrounding its early struggles. The matchup against Buffalo is significant not only because of its divisional implications, but also because it represents a chance to demonstrate that lessons from previous missteps have been internalized and applied. For Tagovailoa and McDaniel, it is a moment to transform candid reflections into tangible improvement, to convert the acknowledged communication breakdowns and execution errors into strategic clarity and discipline on the field. In the bigger picture, Miami's challenges are emblematic of the razor-thin margins that define the NFL. One errant pass, one missed communication, or one poorly timed decision can be the difference between victory and defeat, especially in games that are tightly contested from start to finish. For the Dolphins, the early deficit against the Patriots was overcome through determination and talent, but the inability to execute flawlessly in the final moments erased all progress and left both fans and players frustrated. The season is still in its infancy, but these moments carry disproportionate weight in shaping perceptions, driving headlines, and influencing morale. How the team responds in the next outings could define not just its record, but its identity for the year. Tagovailoa's comments, when framed in this context, are both introspective and rallying. By acknowledging his own role in the team's failures, while also calling attention to the need for systemic improvements in communication and execution, he positions himself as a leader willing to confront uncomfortable truths. McDaniel's similar. Acknowledgement of responsibility complements this, creating a narrative in which accountability is shared and the focus is on correction rather than deflection. For fans, this is an important lens through which to view the loss. A reminder that while errors are costly, recognition and a plan for improvement are the first steps toward reversing course. Ultimately, the Dolphins' struggle against the Patriots serves as a cautionary tale for any team operating in a high-stakes, high-pressure environment. The mistakes in late-game situations are not just about one quarterback's throw or one coach's call. They are about preparation, communication, timing, and the collective cohesion required to succeed when the game is on the line. As Miami turns its attention to the Buffalo Bills, the opportunity to rewrite the narrative is immediate and pressing. For Tua Tagovailoa, Mike McDaniel, and the entire roster, the next game is about more than just the win-loss column. It is about demonstrating that lessons have been learned, that urgency and clarity have been restored, and that the Dolphins can indeed rise to the challenges that define a playoff-caliber team. If the Dolphins can internalize these lessons and execute with precision, there is a path forward, but the margin for error remains slim. The AFC East is unforgiving, and each possession, each snap, each decision is magnified under the scrutiny of both rivals and fans alike. Miami's journey this season will likely be defined not just by its talent or strategy, but by how effectively it can navigate these late-game moments, where composure, communication, and execution intersect in the most consequential ways. As the countdown to Thursday night's showdown begins, the questions remain. Will the Dolphins finally put the pieces together, or will they continue to stumble in the moments that matter most? For now, all eyes are on Miami, watching to see if the frustrations voiced by Tagovailoa and McDaniel can translate into tangible results, and if the Dolphins can finally turn opportunity into victory. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? In the ever-intense world of the NFL, the drama off the field can sometimes overshadow the fireworks on it, and the latest rumblings have sent shockwaves through the league. The words, "We don't want cowards here," reverberated like a thunderclap across social media yesterday, attributed to none other than head coach McDaniel. and they weren't aimed at just anyone. At the center of this storm? Star wide receiver Tyreek Hill. For weeks, whispers had been circulating about tensions within the team, rumors of disagreements over effort, mentality, and leadership. But this latest explosion seems to have brought everything to the surface in a way that no insider could ignore. According to sources close to the team, McDaniel's comments weren't a casual remark or an offhand joke during a locker room pep talk. They were deliberate, pointed, and calculated to send a message. Some say the message was meant to resonate with the entire roster, but the optics of it, directly mentioning Hill, have created a narrative that is impossible to ignore. Fans have been dissecting every word, every gesture, every post from both the coach and the player, looking for confirmation of what many suspect: a growing rift between leadership and one of the most electrifying talents in the league. Tyreek Hill, known for his unmatched speed and game-changing plays, has always carried a certain aura of invincibility. On the field, he's almost untouchable, the kind of player who can turn a routine catch into a highlight reel moment, leaving defenders grasping at thin air and fans in awe. Off the field, however, the rumors suggest a different story. Sources hint at disagreements over commitment levels, preparation, and team culture. Some insiders claim Hill's focus on individual achievements and accolades may have clashed with McDaniel's vision of collective accountability, creating friction that had been simmering beneath the surface for months. The "coward" comment, then, could be seen not just as criticism, but as a challenge, a provocation designed to test Hill's loyalty, focus, and willingness to align with the team's expectations. Sports talk shows and social media platforms erupted almost immediately, with analysts debating the meaning behind the words. Some argue that McDaniel is simply using the classic motivational tactic of calling out a star player to inspire them to greater heights, while others see it as a sign of real tension that could have long-term consequences for the team's chemistry. Interestingly, the timing of the remarks adds another layer to the intrigue. The team is entering a critical phase of the season, where every game matters and playoff implications loom large. In this context, public confrontations, or even subtle digs can carry enormous weight. Rumors suggest that behind closed doors, discussions have been intense, with assistant coaches, veteran players, and even team management weighing in on the situation. Some insiders describe a locker room atmosphere that is electric but tense, where teammates are caught between loyalty to Hill and respect for the coach's authority. According to some reports, McDaniel's words were delivered not just in the heat of a moment, but after a series of perceived missteps, missed opportunities, and moments of questionable effort on the field. Whether or not these claims are true remains shrouded in mystery, but the narrative alone is enough to fuel speculation, debate, and even conflict among fans and pundits alike. Meanwhile, Hill himself has remained largely tight-lipped, at least publicly. Observers note that his recent social media activity has been unusually sparse, sparking further rumors that he may be distancing himself from the drama, or perhaps plotting a calculated response. Some insiders speculate that Hill's silence is strategic, a way to let the storm pass while maintaining focus on the upcoming games. Others, however, interpret it as a sign of frustration or even tension, suggesting that the star player may be reevaluating his role within the team's culture. The ambiguity of Hill's response only adds fuel to the rumor mill, creating a perfect storm for speculation. Sports podcasts, YouTube channels, and fan forums have been dissecting every potential signal: a paused video clip, a subtle expression on the sideline, a delayed handshake. In this digital age, where every detail is scrutinized, even the smallest action can be magnified into evidence of discord or alignment. Adding another layer to the story is the historical context of McDaniel's coaching style. Known for his intense focus on discipline and accountability, McDaniel has a reputation for demanding peak performance from his players, often using public comments to drive narratives, test resolve, or spark urgency. Some argue that calling out a superstar like Hill fits perfectly within this framework. It's not personal, it's tactical. Others, however, contend that publicly targeting a player of Hill's caliber carries risks, including potential distraction, morale issues, and unwanted media attention. The balance between leadership and overreach is delicate, and insiders suggest that McDaniel is acutely aware of the tightrope he's walking. The phrase, "we don't want cowards here," could therefore be interpreted in multiple ways, either as a calculated leadership tactic or as the spark of a locker room fire that could either forge unity or fracture relationships. Meanwhile, fan reactions have been instantaneous, passionate, and polarized. On one side, supporters of McDaniel argue that leadership requires tough love, even if it involves singling out a superstar. They point to Hill's incredible talent but insist that no player should be above accountability, no matter how game-changing their speed or stats might be. On the other side, Hill's supporters view the comments as unnecessarily harsh, arguing that a player of his stature deserves respect and that public criticism could undermine confidence and focus at a critical time. Social media metrics have been off the charts, with hashtags, memes, and discussion threads exploding across platforms. The narrative has taken on a life of its own, transforming into a storyline that extends far beyond the field, captivating even casual observers who may not follow every game but are drawn to the drama, tension, and intrigue that now defines this particular chapter of the NFL season. Behind the scenes, sources indicate that team management is monitoring the situation closely. Conversations are reportedly ongoing about how to manage the optics and dynamics between McDaniel and Hill. While no official statements have been made, insiders suggest that contingency plans may be in discussion, from private mediation sessions to possible adjustments in team strategy, depending on how Hill responds and how the locker room reacts. The stakes are high, and the pressure is immense. A star player like Hill is central to the team's offensive success, but leadership, culture, and accountability are equally critical. The challenge, insiders say, lies in aligning these priorities without creating fractures that could ripple across the roster and affect performance during pivotal moments in the season. What's undeniable is that this incident has already become a defining story of the NFL's current landscape. The combination of star power, leadership tension, and the high stakes of the season has created a perfect storm for speculation, commentary, and even controversy. Every move, every statement, every social media post is being scrutinized, creating a narrative that feels almost cinematic in scope. Fans are tuning in not just for the games, but for the unfolding drama, eager to see whether Hill rises to the challenge, whether McDaniel's strategy succeeds, and whether the team can channel this tension into collective performance rather than letting it become a distraction. Rumors, by their very nature, thrive on uncertainty, and in this case, uncertainty abounds. The story is far from over, and each day seems to add another layer of intrigue, another potential plot twist in a saga that has captured the imagination of the football world. For now, all eyes remain on the field, on the locker room, and on the subtle signals exchanged between a coach known for his intensity and a player known for his explosive talent. The next game, the next press conference, and even the next social media post could tip the scales, offering clarity or deepening the mystery. One thing is certain. In a league defined by speed, skill, and spectacle, the human drama off the field is proving just as compelling as the action on it. And whether McDaniel's words were a spark for motivation, a warning, or the first signs of a deeper conflict, they have undeniably set the stage for one of the most talked-about storylines of the season. The phrase, "We don't want cowards here," has become more than just a quote. It's a narrative touchstone, a symbol of leadership, pressure, and expectation, and perhaps the start of a saga that will be dissected, debated, and remembered long after the season concludes. As the rumor mill churns and speculation intensifies, the football world waits with bated breath, knowing that in this drama, the next chapter could arrive at any moment, leaving fans and analysts alike to wonder, how will Tyreek Hill respond? And how will the team navigate this clash of talent, temperament, and leadership in the high-stakes world of professional football? That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.